Issue 95. We start out with Sonic being told by Jeffrey that if he wants to visit Sally, he has to set up an appointment, even though they're longtime childhood friends. I wonder if this is really true and Sally's being a terrible girlfriend, or if, more likely, Jeffrey made that rule up because he's jealous and doesn't want Sonic to see her. I mean, his whole motivation for everything at this point is that he's jealous of Sonic and his relationship with Sally. Meanwhile, Snively's father Colin hugs him immediately, with the two of them both looking equally happy to see each other again. I wonder if a part of Snively really did appreciate this and still loves him deep down, because that smile looks really convincing. For some reason I'm expected to believe that only the family intellectuals could have baldness. And then I burst out laughing and see Kodo scream in melodramatic rage about how he lost his sword of acorns, and even managed to lose its scent. First off, I'm not sure if a sword has a scent unless it has the scent from the people who last used it on it. And second, why would a scent trail just vanish? They don't do that. Just then, Kodos gets found by some SWAT-bots since he was making the humans panic, making such a ruckus. And I guess Eggman debriefed all the SWAT-bots that he's calling those SWAT-bots protector bots for now, because otherwise they wouldn't know he was giving orders to them, and would think, who the hell are these protector bots he's talking about? It's annoying that one of the humans refers to Kodos as an it for being a Mobian. And also, why would Eggman settle for the title of Lord? Then we cut back to Sonic, whose thoughts in the narration say that when he found Tails' book bag and no sign of Tails, he for some reason didn't get suspicious about him potentially disappearing. Finally, Sonic tries to go on a rescue mission to save the Overlanders instead of Tails. And fortunately, Bunny proves her loyalty to Sonic by agreeing to give him some backup instead of turning him into the king trying to leave Knothole. And this is especially significant because she's doing this alone this time, instead of following what the rest of her friends are doing. But I'm sorry, I'm gonna need a little more than that to forgive her for saying she'd murder Sonic with heat-seeking missiles despite you saving her life in issue 40, with absolutely no remorse. She hasn't really done much to make up for it since then. Or done much at all. You barely get to see any Sonic and Bunny friendship moments. But it's a start. Bunny keeps up with Sonic's speed and then flies over Robotropolis with her bionic leg rockets while carrying Sonic, making me really wish the two were allowed to just go on missions together a lot more often since they're both equally competent. And then Sonic points out a plot hole. Why haven't they all been turned into robot slaves? Sonic then snarkily remarks that Eggman going soft would be about as likely as Sally dating Jeffrey. That's kind of ironic. And after Sonic hears a tree falling and Bunny snarks about how he hates Eggman so much that he just assumes he's responsible for anything bad that happens, even though she doesn't really have much of a point since Eggman hates nature, so why wouldn't he be responsible for a tree falling? The two of them then see Kodos and Arachnus fighting each other, and for some reason it doesn't make any sense to the hero since the narration says they'd always been pretty tight. How would they know what their relationship was like? Maybe they weren't very close. Finally, Eggman explains to Snively why he hasn't roboticized the Overlanders yet. He shows him a tall robot and says that this will be a far more innovative use for their extended family. Huh? Is he planning to fit everyone in there? All at once? This doesn't really explain anything. Then we see Hope adorably go into bed with her grandma out of fear, and her grandma proves her faith in her by believing her about the Robian, and considers seeing if Eggman has an explanation for it. Then we see that Kodos pretended to be out cold so we could get the jump on Bunny, and that scares Sonic into ordering Bunny to go home and let him handle this, causing her to call him macho and inexplicably leave instead of completely ignoring what he said. Well, thanks for being useful, Bunny. Sonic ends up falling in a net made of Arachnus' silk that she had left there for some reason, but fortunately Arachnus used Kodos being distracted as a perfect opportunity to attack him. For some reason, Arachnus frees Sonic when there was no indication that she was the type to stop being evil so fast, not to mention no dialogue from her that would properly establish her personality. And Sonic drags the unconscious Kodos behind him, as I hope he'll stay that way, with the story ending with us seeing eggs in a net of silk. Arachnus' eggs? The second story starts out in an icy mountain with Knuckles, still green unfortunately, complaining that he feels like his insides are tearing him apart. All because of the Chaos Siphon being used on him a little. So wouldn't that absorb some of his energy? Wouldn't absorbing even a little bit of his energy kill him? I guess his insides feel like they're tearing him apart because some of his energy has been absorbed. And so some of his electricity in his body has been taken away. But wouldn't that just kill him or leave him paralyzed? Or wouldn't the electricity just replenish itself by the natural processes of the nerves sending electricity signals through your body when you're moving and stuff? I don't really get why he's like this. Tails then shows up because Aether brought him here, and Aether explains that Knuckles is evolving, and that was the plan. It was the plan all along for him to turn green like this. Tails then says the stupid line that nobody would plan to intentionally hurt someone, even though he's met Eggman and Kodos and Arachnus and Ixis and so on and so forth. What were they thinking when they wrote that line? The pain-racked Knuckles sends a tidal wave of energy from his being, probably in an instinctive attempt to feel better while too much in pain to realize that it might hurt Tails. Unfortunately, Aether protects Tails from the energy with his magic, and tells Tails to shield his eyes so that he wouldn't go blind. After that, Knuckles seems to have teleported away, and after Tails is told that Knuckles went to the floating island, an explosion happens causing a hole to appear in the ground, and Tails immediately talks to Knuckles through the hole. Tails goes up to Knuckles again, lampshading his thoughts the fact that he doesn't know what to do because this is all so beyond him. And Knuckles finally tells him that there's nothing he can do. Then why was he sent here then? A final burst of energy happens which seems to go straight through the top and bottom of Angel Island, and that burst of energy and Tails being knocked out, collapsing rubble somehow didn't kill Tails. If Aether protected him from being killed by it, he should have also been able to protect him from being knocked out and crushed in rubble. Aether then tells Tails that it's time for him to play his part, even though he's unconscious. And then he contacts Merlin Prower, who says a weird interjection, mentions some enchantment being disrupted, and is reminded that Aether was his fellow traveler. Really? Since when? Sure, it's convenient that these two know each other, despite Aether sticking with the wandering tribe apart from Merlin his whole life. I guess the two both contact the Ancient Walkers a lot because they're most magical. Yeah, this doesn't really make a lot of sense. Merlin, being a good uncle, decides to help Tails, putting him in a bed, and says that all he'll need is some rest and a few potions to recover from this. If healing potions exist in the Sonic universe, why don't good wizards like Merlin all supply the hospitals and Mobius with them regularly? I mean, why would Merlin be literally the only good wizard like this making potions like this? Or maybe they do, and that's what the liquid of the stasis tube that healed Sally was made out of. Merlin protectively tells Aether that he doesn't really want Tails to be a chosen one because he's too young, and insists that his destiny isn't to save the echidnas from themselves. How do you know that for sure? Can you see the future? Every little bit of it? Aether agrees that that task was assigned to Knuckles, but Knuckles can't really do much right now. Merlin points out a plot hole with, how can one young fox achieve that which the Ancient Walkers cannot? You might as well say this about every freedom fighter. And the story ends with Aether revealing that the Ancient Walkers are dying. I'm at like 125 or 26 at this point, and I still don't really know what he means by that. As in, I've read ahead to 126, and I still don't know the whole Ancient Walkers are dying thing. Does this plot thread get dropped? Or does it get picked up by Ian Flynn way later? The first story was written by Carl Bollers. Unfortunately, the whole back-in-school nonsense does nothing to inhibit the plot from being as action-packed as it normally is, and Sonic goes to try to save the Overlanders, with Bunny being loyal enough to go help, only for Sonic to get scared into telling her to go home before she could fight, and needing Arachnus to save him from Kodos, who gets knocked out. Hopefully, Sonic dragging Kodos home to be put in prison and having a sword back would be enough to get him pardoned, or else I don't know what else will. I found it annoying that Sonic didn't get suspicious and worried at Tails not coming back from school at all, when he got worried for that exact same reason in the Metal Sonic arc earlier. Other than that, it was pretty action-packed. I just have to wonder why Arachnus helped Sonic. Is she good now just because she hates Kodos, or did she just want to spite Kodos? And in the second story, not much of anything really gets accomplished. Knuckles is in a lot of pain for some reason, as the amount of chaos energy in him is causing him pain just to be a dick, I guess. And Tails naturally isn't able to help him, and gets injured by a blast of energy and rubble. But all of a sudden, Aether knows Merlin Prower because Duke's Ex Machina, and suddenly Tails will be just fine. It is really nice to see Merlin being a caring uncle, caring for Tails being protective enough of his nephew to not want him to risk his life. But just because they're both magical doesn't mean them knowing each other makes sense. And it ends with it being revealed that the Ancient Walkers are dying. First off, all of them, at the same time? The more of them there are, the more unlikely that sounds. And second, why couldn't they just use their infinitely powerful magic to cure themselves or something? It's never been established what they can and cannot do.